Hello, this is Stuart from Hear Me See Me podcast, and today I've got a really interesting guy. Mark Anthony Bradley is a fashion stylist. We met when we was introduced by Lena Headey, our ambassador, and he does some wonderful images. What I want to talk about. So it's a Sunday morning. Mark, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Stuart. Happy to be talking to you on this fine Sunday morning. He said, still yawning, but yeah, it's all good, man. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll go straight into like the bones of things, of as I like to do. I know you as a person, but I like to really get into understanding what makes people tick a little bit. So what was your upbringing like? Where was you brought up?
I was born and bred in London, and I guess I sort of my mother took me around the country a little bit. I spent most of my schooling in Wales, even though I was born in London, and then came back to London for my early teens. So I kind of education-wise, I was kind of all over the country, which was kind of in a way quite good grounding because I got to meet a lot of people early on in my years. So yeah, that's where I was kind of born and bred.
What was like? I mean, Wales is beautiful. I've been to Wales a lot. So what was it like being an English boy in a Welsh school? What was that like?
Ooh, well, yeah, it was a little rough to start with. I mean, it's the obvious equation, if you like. You know, English boy in a Welsh school. He's kind of let's give him a little bit jip. Yeah. So yeah, I was teased a lot for my accent. I think even for my haircut when I was about. I think I an early memory when I was about 12 was just, you know, where did you get this Ponzi haircut, man? And so I think I fought my way out of that. I think I earned a bit of respect as a youngster just by defending myself and defending being English. But my mum's actually kind of Welsh anyway, so I have English and Welsh blood in me. So it served to suit me in both ways, to be honest. I kind of managed to get away with not getting too much of a beating in school.
Yeah. To be honest, I was really badly bullied at school. There was one
Really?
one kid, and when you get one kid on you can't. It was really funny because my sister is 3 years older. So when I was in the first year, she was in the fourth year, and she went out with the best fighter in the school. So I was untouchable, and I got a bit cocky about it. And then sort of day one of the third year or something, when I realised that my sister had left school and her boyfriend as well, I started learning to run. I don't recognise a lot of people.
So you were a sprinter, no doubt.
Yeah, it's surprising. That stuff really gets you, you know, at that age. And
it does. I mean, it definitely had an effect on me for a while. But I mean, luckily, what got me through it the most, I think, was actually being good at football. Right. So I think the hardest kid in the school, basically, who was a year above me, kind of befriended me because I was good at football. And he used to have somebody carrying me around. I used to have to they'd have a guy called, I think his name was Mullins, who would just be his kind of, I guess, almost like his slave. It was ridiculous. Yeah. And he used to kneel down and pick me up and carry me from lesson to lesson just because I was friends with the hardest kid in the school, who just bred fear into the rest of the pupils. So I'd say I was lucky, but I mean, I guess the guy who carried me was the most unlucky. But and I was too scared to say, not get on his shoulders to be carried from lesson to lesson. So, but yeah, literally being good at football kind of got me through it.
Yeah.
So
thankfully, you still got a love.
I do. I am a bit of a soccer head. I mean, back in the day, my mum, she used to go out with one of the Leeds players in the late 70s.
Oh.
So for me, I got to go as a kid. I used to go to all the Ellen Road. So it's kind of in my blood, I guess, because of my mum's relationship with one of the players back in the day. Yeah. So it's always stuck with me. And yeah, I don't watch it as much as I used to, but
No.
I still have a soft spot for it, and especially Leeds. So
Yeah. My where I come from is everyone's West Ham. My
right,
boy,
right,
and I'm not a real. I like the fighting sports. So
yeah,
great football fan, but
yeah,
I do love watching West Ham with my boy. Like that.
right, yeah, for sure.
And he loves it all. And it's funny. I've got a lot of friends that it's the old West Ham area. So you've got the old nutty hooligan people, that
Yeah, I'm sure.
know of, and. I sort of said, I was saying to him once, I said, who was the worst team to go against? Who was the worst people to fight? And he went, Leeds Police.
It's true.
I
It's true.
suppose a lot of practice with the miners, haven't they? The horrible.
No, they always did have a horrible reputation.
A lot of these guys thought they was hard until they got to Leeds and met the police, and I think they realised.
That's the Leeds fans for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So so from school, where did you get into like this sort of the world of fashion and style? And...
Yeah, well, again, my mum always had an influence on me. She sadly passed away time ago, but she always had a really good influence on me. I guess she was involved she did a little bit of modelling back in the day when she was a youngster. She loved art, she loved fashion, so it was a natural progression for me to kind of go that way. And I always wanted to start off as a mark of respect to my mum, because that's how it was. Yeah. So I actually enrolled into Gwent College of Fashion in the 90s, early fashion, and then another course doing fashion promotion, illustration, fashion. So it was like photography, styling. Yeah. Not that styling was an actual given course as such, but it was just an angle into it. It was only, I guess, styling hadn't really evolved that much, or it hadn't really been a thing for that long. So it was kind of nice for me to kind of get an insight into that. But I was doing fashion forecasting, trending, taking my own photos, made my own collection, I guess. And then went to Epsom, left Wales and went to Epsom College of Arts, and I think I did a degree in promotion again. So again, I just got to have a little hint of everything within the fashion world. And then I just decided, when I left college, I just decided to tap up the magazines, just boldly go into the magazines and introduce myself to the world. So yeah. That education-wise, that's how that all worked out.
Yeah, isn't it great to have that when you're young, to just have that? I'm just going to go in and let them know
yeah.
who I am.
Well, that's what I did. I say, my first introduction to magazines, I mean, I was kind of, I guess in college, as a lot of fashion students will probably admit to, is that they were obsessed with ID, especially back in that day. ID was like the Bible, the style Bible. Yeah. And I was just determined to be a part of that. So I kind of just boldly kind of, rolled in, demanded to see the owner, Terry Jones, and Edward Enninful, who was the fashion director, obviously now at Vogue. I think Edward maybe said to me, and I have to thank Terry and Edward, because without those two, I'd never be doing what I've done now. They were such incredible influential people to me. So big heads up to those guys. But I think I mentioned Terry and Edward that I just believed I should be a part of ID.
Yeah, I mean, it does take some guts to go into the head of but like you say, thanks to them, like you got where you won't be doing what you are now.
No, for sure. And yeah, I think I basically rolled in and said that I wanted to do, I'd customized some clothes, and I wanted to be a stylist for ID magazine and contribute. So I kind of naively demanded sort of having, could I have 8 pages of fashion, please? And they were like, Edward took me aside. I think Terry Jones was just like in shock that I'd even asked. And Edward took me aside and said, look, Mark, this is how it works. Well, we like what you're doing. We'll give you a couple of pages. And I was like, oh, really? Is that it? But anyway, so I got to learn the etiquette, I guess, and went away and did my shoot. And I think Edward probably used some of the knitwear that I customized or something. And then I think it went on from there. And I eventually became a contributing editor there for 10 years. So that was my real grounding into the fashion magazine world, put it that way. Yeah, which was incredible. And I'll always be grateful for that grounding.
Yeah. I mean, we met firstly when I was at Lena Headey's house. We were talking about the charity and that, and she introduced us.
Yeah.
And then kindly you came along to one of our sessions when Lena came and cut hair with me in the white jacket.
Right, that's right.
You know, it was great to have you there and to capture those images, which we've kindly let us have to use as well. And what was your? I mean, she's fantastic. To you know, someone, and she was moving to America the next day, and she's
that's correct. That's right. Yeah, I know.
I mean, how generous is that? They come and she's so rush.
Yeah, she does that. I mean, that's the thing about Lena. She gives up so much for other people, and so it's a really humbling world to be around her. So
yeah. What was your impression of that day?
That day, I mean, first of all, I was just really honoured that you guys, between you and Lena, had asked me to do it, and I guess I hadn't really grasped, you know, the importance of what was going on until I actually got there. I remember seeing, I mean, it was a really humbling experience, put it that way. Seeing these guys that looking a little despondent, I guess, lining up to have their haircuts. You know, you can see there's a general mood of almost sadness, and then seeing and photographing the process of you guys cutting their hair and giving them something was quite special. And I think a couple of those came across in the photographs. And if we were to do it again, I would love to kind of get that balance of seeing the joy that came after. You know, they kind of walk in despondently, but walk out with some sort of self-respect, I think, and just feeling good about themselves. They've been groomed, and it's just a little something to give them that little bit of self-belief that they can, you know, that they take away, which I thought was amazing. Yeah, I mean, I got to admit, I had a couple of watery eyes at some point, so it was kind of quite a really humbling experience. It really, really was.
I think it's one of those things that when people see the pit, even if they sort of beautiful images like yours, unless you're in there, you don't really pick up on the emotional content of it all.
It's true.
Yeah, it's something quite special.
Yeah, no,
that old Sue Miller, who runs the mission, like,
brilliant, bless her.
Told you what to do, didn't she? She
Camera
away from me. She's like,
no, she's
got great shots of her. Did she ever let you use them? Because I gave you her email. Did she ever let you do it?
Oh no, I did send them quite. I mean, as a photographer, probably would, whatever happens. But it's kind of. I think I sent her some pictures, and I said, "Would you mind if I actually publish them in any way, or just put them on social media?"
Yeah.
And a simple response was, "Absolutely not. I look horrendous." So I guess, I mean, you know, I totally understand. It's kind of, you know, the thing is, if people take photographs of me, I think exactly the same. Because I'm just hate photographs of myself. If somebody said, "Can I publish these?" I'd be like, "You're joking. You're kidding me. I can't." You know? I mean, so I get it. Do you know what I mean? Everybody wants to be seen in a certain light, and when you're documenting on reportage, you know, doing reportage pictures, then it's not always your best side, if you know what I mean. But it's you're, you know, conveying a moment in time. But I thought she looked great, but you know, she firmly put me back in my seat. So yeah, I'm not going to argue with Sue.
No one does. I've seen her take. There's been some couple of big guys go at it in there, and she just between them, you know. Like,
wow.
I'm not having that here, and they go, "Oh, sorry, Sue."
Yeah, I can believe it, mate. I can believe it. Totally. That's hilarious.
A UFC referee, I think.
Dana White needs to sign a write-up.
Yeah. Later on.
Brilliant.
after we had that day, and then you sent me your pictures and that, and I was following you on Instagram. I know your sort of work is styling, and a lot of your work is the fashion shoots and things. But I started looking at the photographs you had, and I'm just going to. Sorry, I'm going to pause this because I've started that again because I had a bit of Wi-Fi issue. I've gone over to my phone. But, yeah, but I started looking at following your Instagram and stuff.
Yeah.
And, what really took me, I mean, I said to you before we started, I'm about as stylish as a breeze block. So the stuff, a lot of the stuff is not, you know, I'm always got haircuts for homeless t-shirts on, so I've lost any identity of style on that. But the images you've got that you capture with your artistic eye of like empty skateboard rinks and, you know, people, and I'm fascinated by people, and you capture these essences of people. I must really enjoy doing that.
Oh, I mean, it's always been a bit of a passion for me. I mean, I think from the early days, I was always into free, but from even things like gang culture, subcultures. I was looking at pictures by people like Derek Ridgers, photographers like Derek Ridgers and Gavin Watson. That was the early sort of like early skinheads, suede heads, and the mods, whatnot. I've always been obsessed with these kind of trends, I guess. And the same with, you know, American culture, you know, like the early suits, you know, the African Americans, Mexicans sort of rebelling against the troops, you know, sort of in the mid 40s. It was wearing their suits. It was always, I've always been fascinated by gang culture, and a lot of those pictures tend not to be, they tend to be catalogued via a very simple backdrop. It's more about the subject than it is about anything else. And there's a gritty, harsh, realistic look to these photographs, and something that's always over time, without even really realizing it, that's become something that I embodied. And so when I started, and then plus learning, working with so many photographers over the last 20, 25 years, I guess it's had an effect on me, and I probably unknowingly kind of grasped a bit of a style that does capture moments in time, I think, as best I can anyway. But yeah, I mean, I just, whether it be skateboarders, whether they're in a park or whether they're not, it's something about the essence of capturing a movement or a group of people and getting off, you know, moments that subliminal moments, I guess, where it's not just the typical shot. I'm just trying to get something a little bit different. So yeah, I mean, whenever I can, I mean, prior to COVID, I used to go to LA to shoot a lot of kids. But then I'll go to Thailand if I've been to Thailand. Wherever I go around the world, I'll always try and capture something. I went to Thailand a few years ago, and so I just went to the nearest UFC camp to get these kind of mixed martial artists who look amazing, and are so honoured to have their pictures taken. I just go and find, you know, look it up on Google, where's the nearest UFC ring or something, or a fighter or a boxer or whatnot. And so I'll just go and ask them politely if I can capture them. If they tell me to F off, then I do. Then if they let me do it, then
it's probably best to do that fairly quickly.
It's true. But most people have been really amazing. So that's my outtake on that, and it's my favourite hobby, which is now becoming something that maybe I might. Other people possibly, and it's all. I'm just finding like taking up a lot of my time. It's just taking photos because it's become an obsession. So
yeah, I love it. I love the things you do. I mean, I went to Thailand, and it's such a beautiful place. It must, you know. It's of course. You know, and those Muay Thai, when you go to the Muay Thai fights, and the, you know, like it's got such an energy about them,
Yeah,
and then next to it, then you go out and you've got these beautiful beaches, and the
yeah,
people are beautiful, aren't they? That they are
they
literally
are. Yeah,
beautiful souls, you know,
yeah,
like
absolutely.
the pride they
Yeah,
have in anything that they do. Um,
yeah,
and it's, and as well, you said about people surprisingly letting you take photographs. I mean, I saw you
yeah,
took lots of photographs at the Euros recently. You know,
yeah,
it was
yeah, yeah.
really, they were so powerful, them pictures, and sometimes it amazes me that you often would think you would get told to fuck off. You know, like
Oh
there's,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like, you know, but people like, there's something, people like to have their image taken, don't they?
I think so, yeah. I mean, generally they do. I mean, there's a lot of shy people out there. What I
Yeah,
tend to normally do is kind of get in amongst the people and kind of maybe make it obvious that I'm taking a picture, not necessarily of them, but then I tend to, get their attention, show them a picture on my camera and just say, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing. And
yeah,
most of the time they get kind of excited about it and just say, yeah, yeah, I want to be a part of that. Oh, yeah, no, you take my picture, that's fine. But yeah, that was, I mean, it was a kind of one-off. It's not often England gets as far as they did in these competitions. So I wanted to get in there. I literally on the morning decided to go up to Wembley
yeah,
with a face mask on. I mean, there was a lot of people that were wearing face masks, so it was a little bit scary. But at the
yeah,
same time, I just kind of got in there, and people would effectively coming up to me in the end, or they'd say, "Take my picture, take my picture." I'll be taking his picture, and then I just kind of, some people might tell me to f off, but that's fine. I'll go with the flow. I don't expect everybody to be,
no, no,
to be
no,
up for it,
no.
but most of the time they will. And then if somebody else, it's the same with skateboarders. In LA, I used to go there with another photographer called Phil Knott, who's got no, he gets in there bold. You thinking, who is this dude? And especially an English dude. Like, and then you show them a few pictures, and then you say, and then they kind of maybe like that, and they're like, oh, cool, cool, and then they start doing things for you, and you get moments. So I love that interaction and finding a common denominator. They're kind of, you know, they're like, oh, this crazy English dude that just came up, and we love his YMC trousers or something. He's a cool dude, but it's lovely, and it's it kind of it counteracts the kind of what would you call it, the generation gap, if you like, as well, because I'm a lot older than some of these kids.
Yeah,
So it's kind of, it breaks down those barriers, and it's just a really, again, a humbling experience, and to walk away with pictures and then stay in touch with these kids, send them pictures, and they're like, yeah, dude, this is amazing. So
yeah.
I get a kick, a massive kick out of it. It's not just a photograph, it's then hopefully carrying on beyond that. So yeah, that's what I really enjoy.
That's not, that's good that you have that continual contact, you know, rather than just,
Sure.
you know, it's almost like you're not doing one night stands, you're forming relationships, and
That's exactly what it is. It really, really is. Yeah. I mean, I have a couple of these skater kids who just kind of, they're probably partying at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they're sending me
yeah,
pictures just because they just want to, because it's something that maybe made them think of the time that we shared when we're taking pictures. But it's the same as, with a couple of the UFC guys in New York. There's one in particular, I won't mention, but he's kind of, we did some pictures, and he's really sweet. He's a warrior in the ring, but he's kind of, and he asks me for my opinions on things every now and then. He sends me messages, and it's just, and I'm like, wow, why you're asking me? And it's really lovely. So I like to, I am a people's person. I do love interacting with people, and I used to be kind of quite nervous, but around people. But I think since taking up photography and learning from my friend Phil Knott, the photographer, to just, we only live once, just, interact with people as best you can. And again, I find it so humbling. And yeah, so I'm totally up for that.
yeah. The biggest gift I ever had was the first day I went to a homeless section and cut someone's hair. And it's cliche, but it changed my life, because in the end, my whole direction of my life is different now. And it's because
Yeah.
I've got a different view. I've learned so much more about people. And it's funny, I came from a place where I thought at that point already thought I knew a lot.
Yeah.
I knew very little compared to, like, the what makes people tick.
Sure.
And I've learned a lot about myself over that time as well.
Yeah, I bet.
The more you look at other people, the more you find out about yourself, don't you?
It's so true. I mean, I'm not just saying this, but I have a huge amount of respect for what you do too. And I know another guy in LA, Sasha Brewer.
Oh, I know Sasha.
You know Sasha, right? Yeah. So I worked with him a couple of times, and obviously his girlfriend or his partner, Kate.
Yes.
Who I've known for years. I spend a bit of time with them whenever I go to LA, and it's the same with Sasha. I mean, I just you people like yourselves, you just have to give up. It's all about giving back. It's kind of, and I'm learning that still now. It's about, whatever we do in life. Sometimes it shouldn't just have to be about me feeling good about doing something like that, but it generally does feel good to give a little bit something back sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's the way life should be, and people should be more like that. And and I'm learning, and I'll endeavor to do more things in the future to kind of, just to make a difference to people that need it. It's a wonderful thing. And I commend you amazingly.
Well, the thing is, and this is what we try and get out to people, and they do, once they come and volunteer, and that they realise they get so much from it. It's not, think you're a kind person, but you get so much from it yourself. And then there's this week I was in Peterborough, and there was this guy who comes to the sessions. I've only seen him 3 or 4 times over the last 2 years, but we've got such a connection because we're both alcoholics. So what we do, I cut his hair, and then we'll go off to a room and we'll have a little private chat for sort of half an hour. And it's just about connecting. And we got there late on Wednesday, and he come in and he said, "Is Stuart not here?" And he was panicking. And then when we pulled up at 8 o'clock, and then I was in the van, and then my sister was with me, and she come running across the road. She went, "Is Stuart there?" And then he was so pleased to see me, and he's going through so much at the moment, and now unfortunately he's now on crack. But we went in that room, and I came out feeling grateful. I came out remembering what I am. I know what I am. I'm the same as him. I'm an alcoholic. I'm an ex-drinker. I'm an ex-drug taker. And then what that does, by me giving them that help for that half hour, puts me back in mind that, hang on a minute, I've had a pretty shit this year, and it's like, hang on a minute, you remember what you are. Don't be like thinking everything's cool, because it ain't never gonna be.
No, it totally puts things into perspective, doesn't it? Really, that's what it is. Yeah. I mean, the petty things we complain about sometimes, it pales into insignificance sometimes. When you really examine it, you're just like, hold on a minute, just be grateful for what we've got, really. And it's just, I've definitely reevaluated life over the last, God knows how long, many years, so I've got to agree with you there.
How did it affect you then? Because I mean, obviously we've just been through the biggest pandemic. Like, what happened to you? How did it affect you?
Well, when it first kicked off, there's a lot of my work. I mean, it's affected me massively, I must say, in terms from the styling point of view. I mean, I'm ticking over, but it's not like how it used to be. That's for sure. When it first kicked off, I was actually, I just agreed to go to New York. We used to have an apartment there, me and my partner. And we were basically en route there. I was en route there, sorry. And I had 3 jobs lined up consecutively over 10 days. I think within 2 days of arriving in New York, all 3 got cancelled. It suddenly hit. And I was just like, wow. And I kind of you know, I'd come to terms that the jobs weren't happening and that something was going on, but I didn't envisage it was going to go on like it was. You know, like most people, I thought, oh, well, you know, I've lost these jobs. It's unfortunate. Maybe they'll come back at a later period. But then it was, I ended up getting stuck there for 3 weeks. I couldn't get back home because I had to, I mean, basically I wanted to come home, but you couldn't go to the airport. You couldn't ring the airlines. It was complete chaos, really, in a way. And then so I kind of resigned that I couldn't do anything for a couple of weeks. So I kind of sat tight, and then just, so for me, it was pretty damning, but I made use of the time by going to, at that time you could still go on the metros. So I go into Manhattan or walk across the bridge to Manhattan sometimes and just photograph the streets, because it was desolate, like you'd never imagine, you know, you know, the Madison Avenues and the parks and stuff. Central Park there was nobody there. It was just like an apocalyptic sort of scene. Yeah. Or I'd go to Coney Island. So for me as a photographer, there was a positive, if you like, in this horrible pandemic. But so I just made use of the time. So that was quite interesting. But then when I eventually got back to England, it was just it's definitely taken its toll. It's now picking up a little bit, and I think it's one of those things. From my point of view, I just feel like we're going to have to live with this thing. It's not going to go away. So we need to take whatever precautions we can, but carry on, because, you know, otherwise we go into lockdown again, and it's going to ruin so many people. I mean, so many people have been ruined already. Yeah. So many businesses, young businesses, aspiring kids doing new things. Yeah. But I always believe in sort of, I think in a way it almost feels like a pre-punk kind of situation where people are getting creative again. And I love that. You know, it's just, I love seeing, because that's what I was like when I said before, when I went into ID, I was just a cheeky little brat who expected the world. But that's because I was really keen, and I was just like determined to make my stamp, if you like. Yeah. So I feel like people are doing that now. And so I think in all this insanity and madness, I think something quite beautiful might come out of the flames, if you know what I mean. I think there'll be a revolution of fashion. Well, I mean, we're already seeing that in sustainability, fashion, and people with it. You know, I think there's a huge amount of people now buying secondhand clothes and renovating them and doing something new with them. New designers are using, again, I think, sending out scouts to find old vintage pieces so that they can revamp them and add their own stamp. So I think it's great. It's just rejuvenation of things. Yeah. So yeah,
I think that's crucial. I mean, this thing of sustainability, you know, it's everyone's. It's always the same thing. Human beings always get it a bit late, don't they? It's always
sure, it's true.
Everything up, and then we maybe try and like put the fire out, you know. But it's at least try and put the fucking fire out, you know. Yeah. but you know,
but again, for me, I feel like we need, because there's so much of this sustainability. I mean, without that, we're getting this kind of this online presence with fashion now. You know, I keep on seeing this digital presence, which kind of, to me, is a little bit alarming, because it's kind of, I might be wrong, but I read recently something. I think the likes of like Amazon are trying to set up an app to determine whether something is cool or not. I mean, where does that come from? I mean, what's that about? I mean, I may be wrong, but that's what I'd read recently, that they're trying to bring out an app that determines whether something is cool or not. So we're taking away the whole human element here. So I'm kind of, you know, reluctant to look at it from that point of view. So I think with all this kind of digitalization and I think we're looking at sort of having virtual kind of what do you call them, changing rooms.
Oh,
right. I mean, what's that all about? I mean, I'm sorry, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I mean, I think I like to relate to the youth and whatnot, but I can't believe people will go that way. I think there needs to be some sort of human interaction, or, you know, I mean, of course, the world is going digital. That's what it is. But I think within moderation, anyway.
Yeah, it's the same. You've got to have that human touch, that human element.
For sure, for sure.
And there's things that, I mean, Amazon have opened up a hairdressing salon in London.
Wow.
And that's really ruffled some feathers.
Oh, well, I can only imagine.
But I sort of, I like to stand back and watch all that stuff, because it's, you know, it's just different.
Oh, I think frozen.
You know, and
yeah,
it's an element you're not going to take away. You can't replicate what you saw, what we do. You can't.
Yeah.
Sure. You do. You know, like that eye you've got. They're not going to be able to do that. You know, please
sure.
God, because if they do, we might as well give up. You know. Like,
no, exactly. That'll be it. End of. But I mean, yeah, no. Let's pray for that. You know, you know. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. Technology, of course, we have to move along with it. Of course, I get it. But I mean, you know, and I think things like fashion shows, it's kind of, you know, it's always that thing. When I started working with ID back in the day, I'd go to all shows with Terry Jones to Paris, Milan, New York, and we'd sit there. But to be honest, most, you know, and I loved that at that time. I loved that sort of, that kind of physical thing where you're seeing something like a designer's creation come to life. It wasn't just selling clothes. It was an experience, and it was fun to watch. But then, I mean, 75-80% of the people are there just to be seen, and it's kind of, it's just, you know, it's a little showing off. It's a little peacock, you know, feathers and whatnot, which I kind of get, but it just got to me in the end, and it's kind of, I don't think, you know, it's not essential anymore. We don't need that, so we can cut down on things like that, you know. So I think we need to kind of, so there is a digital side that will you know, that will help things, and I understand all that, but I just think we need to kind of still have some human interaction. Otherwise, I don't see future fashion going anywhere good, put it that way.
Well, I told you this would be good, because the thing, I love doing this. I'll tell you why I love it, is because even like, say, like when we met, when you come to the mission, you all do your stuff, you run off, and you maybe have a quick coffee after, and then bang, you don't really take the time to sit and really talk to someone, or we're all so busy, aren't we? And I think I don't even care if we've got 3 listeners. I love doing this just because I get to talk to people for a decent amount of time. And
no, it's good. You know, I totally resonate with you saying. I mean, it's you know, I have, you know, when Lena first asked me to maybe that you'd invited me to come down and take some pictures again, it was just, I was desperate to do it, because it's, for me, it's moments in time, which is part of my philosophy of photography. But to then sort of meet some of these people and then meet you briefly was again, like I said before, a humbling experience. And then we get to do this podcast, if you like, and it's just, so I learned a bit more about you as well, which is great. And you know, I'd love to do it again. You know, I want to sit down to you, you know, even if it's not a podcast, we go out and have a beer or something, or whatever, or a coffee or something. But it's kind of nice, and Lena facilitated that, so bless her cotton socks. So nice to her, man, seriously.
Well, I wish you well, sir, and I will come and have a coffee.
No, we'll do that. Let's chat. I mean, I feel like we've got some history. There's some football. There's some imagery, things to talk about. People,
things I can tell you that I ain't going to say on here. So there's
Oh, I've got a few of those too. Don't worry about that.
We'll definitely do that then. Well, thanks very much for your time, and
you're welcome.
I'll put all the links, and you know, I want everyone to see your lovely work and everything. So
bless you, my friend.
Very well known, but you know, anyone who has not seen it, I want them to see your lovely photograph.
Oh, thank you, Stuart. It's been an absolute pleasure. I was, to be honest, I was sweating a little bit about this. I'm not very good at these things, but you made me feel really relaxed, and I just went on a bit of a rant, which is kind of nice, you know.
That's all it's for.
Oh, bless you, Stuart. It's been a pleasure, mate.
Thank you.